Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
It's time to finally close the book on the very first INDYCAR ButtKicker iRacing Pro Series. Just 63 days have passed since the season got underway, but now 114 laps at the Nashville Superspeedway lie between Diogo Pinto and himself strumming his way into victory lane as our champion. Welcome along to the INDYCAR YouTube channel and to the iRacing Esports Network. One final time, my name is Arjuna Kangipati, joined alongside by Kenneth Bueno. And Kenneth, this has been a remarkable season. The very first INDYCAR Esports Championship here on iRacing. And in many ways, Redline came in as the expected favorites. But the way in which they have grown and risen to the challenge has really stood up. And Diogo Pinto ready to be counted as our champion here today.
They've adapted really well, and Diogo Pinto has stood up to the challenge that has been this season. I mean, what more can you ask for from an inaugural campaign in this INDYCAR iRacing ButtKicker Pro Series? It's been wonderful to see. However, there's a championship fight on our hands. It's do or die here in Nashville Superspeedway. Diogo Pinto can hoist the trophy if he bodes well. Philip Kraus, though, right behind him, trying to take the title away.
7 days ago, we made our way to the Milwaukee Mile. The fan vote, of course, the audience deciding that we would equally split the season into 5 ovals and 5 road and street courses. And instantly, plenty of excitement at the start of the race. Right on board with Joshua Chin as one car airborne and up and over almost. It just was an indication, though, of how intense, Kenneth, it was going to be in the heart of the pack.
And we saw a lot of fantastic racing, lots of multi-groove in this race. Many guys at the bottom, middle, and very top of the racetrack. It was amazing to see how differently the drivers were tackling this Milwaukee Mile that proved very challenging for some and added with the big-time drama. Phil Kraus, who had been involved in the opening lap caution, then got involved right there in a secondary accident, was able to weave through the middle. But it was no stopping Michele Costantini Arjuna, who finally broke the curse after a rocky season, was able to get by. He had to survive while the rest of the field behind was focused on the championship battle.
It's been a pretty torrid season overall for Michele, but he was able to outlast everything out front, and at the end of the day, from pole to victory lane, domination leading every single lap. A real statement. Michele will be looking to try and carry that forward here today as well. There's a look at the winners that we've had across the 9 races so far. Only Phil Kraus and Eduardo Leo have been able to visit victory lane on repeat occasion, and we'll find out this final time if anyone will be able to join them. Can maybe Phil Kraus win 3 times this season. He might very well need to do that on his way to challenging for the championship. And really, you talk about the story of the season, Kenneth, we were talking about the championship battle itself, down to the 3 final contenders at the very top, although qualifying has seen one driver whittled away.
It was Phil Kraus who ended up getting the pole here tonight at Nashville Superspeedway. And as we look at the point standings, I mean, it's 41. It's a pretty hefty tally that he needs to catch up to Diogo Pinto, but it still is a chance, and that's enough for Philip Kraus to try something. Diogo Pinto has risen as of late. He's been able to extend his championship gap over the last several races with decent finishes, so he needs some of that tonight. Everyone third on back. They're basically just fighting for the cash prizes at the end of this season when the checkered flag waves. It's 1 and 2 for the title we'll be watching all night long.
Also going to have a small keen eye on the battle for the top 12 or so, those that will keep their licenses for 2025. But Kenneth, we've strummed our way over to Nashville. Talk us through this interesting facility opened back in 2001.
Well, I like to call this track one with refreshed life. It opened in 2001, welcomed INDYCAR racing that July, and has hosted INDYCAR for quite a while until its closure in 2011. Then it reopened back in 2021, and it is a great track at 1.33 miles. It's all concrete, the only concrete track on this series in terms of the ovals as we see it. 9 degrees on the front straightaway where you find that start finish line, 6 degrees on the backstretch, but what we'll watch is the 14 degrees of banking in the corners coupled with that asphalt and that concrete surface rather. It does eat up the tires, and it hosted the INDYCAR series finale this year, hosting the finale for this iRacing finale tonight. It'll be awesome.
Really enjoyed watching the race as well. Some of the different ways that drivers approach the track, of course, setup approaches as well, something that you have to keep in mind. Relatively short race, yes, at 114 laps, just the 1 pit stop expected, but how are you going to manage your car across of that entire stint? That's the question that lies in front of the drivers. Ready to rumble, though, for the final time this season. Let's go trackside and take a look at the starting grid for the INDYCAR ButtKicker iRacing Pro Series finale. It's private label team hype 1 through 3. Kraus, Chin, and Brophy split themselves by just over 0.5 of a second before you get to the first of the Coanda drivers, Elliot Veyron, who got a podium at Indianapolis, trying to once again find his way into the front 3. Rob Malechka, double iRacing Indy 500 champ of 2024, is inside of Michele Costantini. He's looking to try and go back-to-back in victory lane. Luke McEwen alongside of Dan Amor, Apex Racing Team and Apex Racing Academy on row number 4, with Michael Romanidis and Diogo Pinto, the points leader, rounding out the top 10. Remember, Pinto just needs 16th or higher to wrap this up. Jacob Oster, Jordan Caruso just behind the points leader on row number 6 with the young Eduardo Leo inside of Xavi Ross in the 04 entry. Jaden Munoz has got Florian Lebigra for company, 100th a second between the two of them, with Jose Soria alongside the returning Cooper Webster. Remember, fighting to get back up into the top 12 and keep his license for next year. Gustavo Ariel, Brendan Lichtenberg, edge of the top 20 with Sotomuto and Sam Coitert, first drivers with no lap time on the board and having to fight their way from the very back of the field. Tamash Simone, Ricardo Rico, 2 more drivers scratched out in qualifying with David Top, Adam Crane and Jeff Drake at the back of the field. Great to see Adam Crane returning as well towards the end of the season. Yuzi Katia did let us know, unfortunately, he's missing the season finale due to a work commitment. He works in the shipping industry as a COO, so sometimes the priorities have to be worked through. But Kenneth, talk us through our ButtKicker race analysis.
Well, at this 1.33 mile Nashville Superspeedway, we have 114 laps on tap for this race. We should obviously expect a pit stop like we've seen over the course of the oval schedule this year. The clock's in a little over 150 miles. We've got the cautions in effect this week like we did the week before at Milwaukee Mile, so that could play a role in who gets involved in the chaos number 1, but how it will affect the strategy until the end of the race number 2. The biggest concern will be the tires, how often they get worn down here over the course of the run, and if we step into a run that lasts a little more than 20 laps, we will start to see the effects on the racetrack. It's all about who can manage to set up their best and also who can manage the tire wear, just like we did last week at Milwaukee. Pit road speed clocks in at 45 miles an hour. If we do happen to see green flag pit stops, Arjuna, it's not an easy entryway to pit road here at Nashville like it was a little earlier at Milwaukee and some of the other ovals we've seen on the calendar. So keep that in mind. It's a dangerous 1.33 mile track for this championship ending.
fingers crossed, we are going to get our fair share of green flag pit stops as well, although you never know, that could bring out the timing of the caution. Plenty of cloud cover as well to speak of, and that's going to influence the balance of the cars as mentioned. Not too much wind, but the track temperature hovering at around 100 Fahrenheit. One thing to keep in mind, Diogo Pinto, champion of the Porsche Esports Super Cup in 2022, he's been in this sort of situation before. Phil Kraus on the other side of the equation has battled plenty in this IndyCar, but maybe a little less at this level of sim racing. He starts up front. All he's got to do is look forward and try and make his way to victory lane. Diogo Pinto's target, stay out of trouble, work with his teammates, 16th or better. We'll see him join his Team Redline teammate Alex Palou in winning an IndyCar championship here in 2024. We'll send the pace car off and away, hopefully for a long time. What can Phil Kraus do? Can he strum up some magic at the Nashville Superspeedway? 114 laps to close out the very first INDYCAR ButtKicker iRacing Pro Series. Let's go! And instantly in the heart of the pack, Dan Amor's going to get swarmed on that run down into turn number 1. Phil Kraus, Jason Brophy, Josh Chin, BLTH now joined by Rob Malechka 1 through 4 as they try and control the running up front.
Well, all you got to do in this opening lap, Arjuna, especially if you're Diogo Pinto and Philip Kraus, is avoid the chaos. Stay in line and get out of the way of the other cars. It's a rather narrow Nashville Superspeedway, so the last thing you want to do is get into trouble. But we find drivers already at the apron. Yellow flag is out. Sam Kreitzer, Ricardo Rico, and Brendan Lichtenberg, a 3-car pileup on the front straightaway before lap 2 is complete.
Brendan Lichtenberg's wearing a little bit more formal attire today in the expectation, his words not mine, that this might be his very last IndyCar Pro Series race, and unfortunately gets tangled up before he even reaches the end of lap number 1 officially. But we'll slow things down and get ready to single file ourselves out for another restart. That's one thing to keep in mind, Kenneth. Double file on the initial green flag running, and then single file every time we have to see the pace car back after that.
And that means that Philip Kraus, now that he's the pole sitter in this race, has the advantage. He is the control car. He doesn't have to worry about a hiccup from a driver, behind him and all that. On the inside lane taking advantage, you won't have that as much, and Phil Kraus will have the clean air. But let's get a look at what happened back in the field. This was back for 20th place, I believe, and it was 3 wide between Lichtenberg, Kreitzer, and Ricardo Rico, and it just seemed like faint contact between Rico and Kreitzer as they were in the middle 3 wide. The margin is very slim between those 3. A look behind as the 3 wide action ensues, and then the contact just bounces Kreitzer off of both cars, gets Rico out of shape, catches Lichtenberg, sends him sideways, and it gets no one else in the running, Arjuna, which is good. But for Kreitzer specifically and Ricardo Rico, 2 drivers who we've seen perform pretty well on the ovals as of late, their races unfortunately end early here.
Well, the one thing that you do know about Nashville is it is technically about 4 cars wide, not necessarily going to work out. A bit more impatience, aggression at the start of the race, not necessarily to be unexpected. Diogo Pinto still sits inside of the top 10. He's got Eduardo Leo, his teammate, behind him. It's going to be relatively important for them to control this next restart that we get to see exactly how it all goes. Earlier in the season, we were able to catch up with Ben Hendricks, Senior Manager of Sponsorship, Sales, and Strategy at Penske Entertainment. And of course, it's been great to be able to bring in the IndyCar Esports Championships as part of the re-partnership between IndyCar and iRacing here in 2024. We had the return of the iRacing Indy 500 as well. But I've got to ask, Ben, growing up in Indiana, you've spent a ton of time around the sport. What about IndyCar makes it so exciting to watch, to experience, whether it's in person, on TV, or here in the sim on iRacing?
Yeah, growing up in Indiana, IndyCar and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Indy 500 are kind of the lifeblood of Central Indiana. So this year will be my 25th Indianapolis 500. So being able to live the dream in some sense and be involved with IndyCar and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is great. It runs in the family. And it's great to be able to give everybody the opportunity to experience IndyCar in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway through iRacing. I think that's the coolest thing for me, and even sharing that bond with some of my buddies and people across the world, to be able to get the opportunity to feel and see what it looks like inside of an IndyCar, whether you're here at IMS or whether you're at Long Beach, or it's a unique opportunity. So to be able to share that with everybody kind of from around the world is something exciting, and glad that we can partner with iRacing and bring that to life for everyone.
25 Indy 500s. I'm jealous. I fell in love with the event courtesy of iRacing. I'm at 3. One day I'll get to 25 as well. We're ready to shepherd the pace car off and away. Didn't even get to the end of lap number 1, remember. Technically, before the caution came out for some. Phil Kraus hoping for a little bit more time so he can build up some buffer and start to work on the long run speed of that private label team hype 1, 2, 3, 4 accordion that they're going to unwind once again. Arjuna Kankipati alongside of Kenneth Bueno, and Kenneth hoping for a little bit more tidiness to begin this time around.
Well, now that we've got the single file restarts in implement, it is going to naturally make the restarts a lot more clean, just because you have more separation between the drivers in the field. You won't encounter the 3 wide as much, and you can already see the results of it. The only side-by-side action is here for P5. Elliott Veyron, Luke McEwen going at it for the position. McEwen ended up finishing on the podium last week in Milwaukee. Had a wonderful and uneventful race in his words, but still a good performance out of the Apex Racing machine. And we'll keep an eye on where Diogo Pinto is. He currently is lodged still in P10 where he started this race. No real progression yet, but it's like what I said earlier. Stay out of trouble to start, get in your rhythm, then start to tally the position.
Left side of the screen on the timing tower, highlighted in red, those still mathematically in the championship fight. Remember, Eduardo Leo came into the night, factored in, but with qualifying now not going his way, he doesn't get the bonus point for pole position. He's no longer in contention. The rear wing as well, that's completely red for our championship contenders. Quite easy to pick them out, and Diogo Pinto's right now directly behind Michael Romanidis, juking one way then the other to the inside through 1 and 2. Now this is crucial, 9 points behind as it sits right now, so 1 position gain for Diogo Pinto. He's now 2 points better off as compared to Phil Kraus up front.
But the thing is, he's going to have to also hope that Philip Kraus doesn't stay up front for much longer, because you get 2 points for leading the most laps in the race. So every moment that Philip Kraus is spending at the front of this field with his teammates behind him, it means that number 1, it's a tougher route to the front, because you have to fight the private label team hype drivers overall as a group in order to get by. But number 2, that gap between Pinto and Kraus is going to start to fluctuate. It's going to start to crunch down, and that means Pinto will be under more pressure to gain spots and therefore gain the points. There's Romanidis, who missed the race last week after being in the NOLA Motorsports Park racing in real life, and seems like there's another battle building up. It looks like Luke McEwen still hasn't finished yet, with Elliott Veyron, the battle for P5 still going on.
In some ways, it was a bit of a surprise to see Elliott Veyron qualifying so well, or rather finishing so well in Indianapolis. He's got plenty of experience on the road courses, both in the real and virtual worlds, especially in these open-wheel machines. A little less experience on the ovals, but Kawanda clearly shown up with a qualifying and race car that's easy to get to grips with, and Veyron flying the flag, better off than Costantini so far. And down low, Costantini on his former teammate, McEwen. Battle still raging on as we tick our way on over now to lap 13 of 114. Lunge down low from the Italian. Really spurred on by the win a week ago, you could tell in many ways, but you could just see loses a bunch of momentum off the corner. McEwen holds on to 6th.
And they're already switching lines here. A bit surprised that we're seeing the multi-groove kick in this early in the race. We're watching Costantini and McEwen. I mean, 2 different laps there, both of them running different lines across the speedway. This time Costantini will be up a little higher, and for what it's worth at Nashville Superspeedway, you really want to stay down towards that yellow line. That is usually the best way to run. It's not that much of an oval, multi-groove track in comparison to some of the others that we've seen on the schedule this year. But so far, I mean, with these Indy cars, Nashville's providing the multiple lanes and all those options, specifically in that tertiary groove where Costantini sits, where he is on the outside and just able to hold on to McEwen. I mean, wonderful from Costantini to get the win. Arjuna last week at Milwaukee lifted his spirits. He was so happy to visit victory lane for the first time, and he wants to close out this season in a strong fashion.
Yeah, but as ever, powered by, or at least his monitors are, powered by the at least son of 1,000 different sons, it would seem. Every time I see it, I'm amazed that he's able to survive with monitors that bright, especially given we've talked about this plenty, 3, 4 in the morning for plenty of these Europeans by the time they finish up and go to bed. I think last week Michele enjoyed the champagne a bit too much, up a little bit later than that. Gap has grown quite considerably at the front of the field. It's now 1.6 or so seconds that Phil Krause has broken clear of his teammates sitting 2nd through 4th, although it does seem as though they're all somewhat separating out as well. Clearly clean air is important, and I wonder if we do get a long enough green flag run here, Kenneth, could traffic start to play a factor?
Traffic would create a factor here, and this isn't a short track. I mean, it's one of the longest ovals that we have on the schedule, barring Indianapolis, of course. But Nashville clocking it at a little over 1.33 miles. I mean, it is a pretty decently sized track, but when you're going this fast and when the tire wear is kicking in like this, that spreads the field in this fashion, you're going to catch lap traffic already. And it seems like Krause, it will take a little while before he ends up finding some of the back markers in the field and start to get by them slowly but surely, but it will happen as long as we do stay green. There's a look from Jacob Oster for Team I5G. He's had an up and down year so far. He wants to close out the season in a good fashion. 13th at Milwaukee last week. Not the best outing for him, but Oster looking to get a better run tonight as he sits in P12 right behind Eduardo Leo.
For the Team I5G contingent, Brendan Lichtenberg unfortunately sitting in pit lane and watching on, so flying the flag is Jacob in the green and gold. Came very, very close in 2022 to winning the iRacing Indy 500. Was 3 wide with Christian Steele and Alexis Newsom. Christian Steele coming off eventually as the victor on the one-lap shootout to close things out. And I'm knocking on wood when I say this because some believe in the curse of the commentator. This is our 5th oval race of the season, only one of which has finished under green. Knock on wood. Make that 2 out of 5 to close out the year. A little bit of fighting further back, but Sotomuto, David Toth, that's for 19th, 20th position. Everyone else somewhat trying to now figure out 20 laps in, how much of your tires burned out, where are my in-car tools gone, the ARB, the weight jacker, and if you're Diogo Pinto, Dan Amor starting to be a little bit slow. Michael Romanides getting a little bit closer as well. This is uncomfortable.
Well, think about it. The race leader right now, Philip Krause, his best lap is a 23.468. His current last lap is a 24 flat. So it's already almost a 1/6 of a second difference in fall off from the opening lap of the race to what we're running right now, which these drivers are on 23 lap old Firestone Firehawks. So it is eating up on the rubber, and that's why drivers are experimenting a little more with the lanes, finding where that grip is on the racetrack. And as Pinto, one of the last time by, said at 24.1, he was on par, in fact a little better than Dan Amor up the road, but this is where you start to even out when you catch that dirty air, and when the cars are getting a little bit squirrely, you'll find them near that outside wall. Closer and closer with each passing lap. Pinto does have to maximize the opportunities he gets because it may be rare if we stay green.
It does seem as though, by the way, that Phil Krause is going to catch Gustavo Ariel relatively soon. He's got some damage to the front wing, so traffic going to be a factor, but not in a major way until maybe another 10 or 15 laps or so, at which point we're starting to get closer and closer to that idea, a tantalizing prospect of a green flag pit stop window, and the danger of entering and exiting pit lane is significant, as is the jeopardy of blending back out onto track with fresher tires than those around you. Did see that one driver slid his way off the track, but that was just Sotomuto, who's down now in 24th position. We're in that phase of the race, Kenneth, where no one can really afford to make a mistake. You're not always going to get bailed out by a safety car.
Yeah, and with the case of Sotomuto, I mean, he slid so far into the infield grass on the front straightaway that is well below the racing line. So race control, if they see one car going down like that, they say, well, that's not really a case for a yellow flag, especially since Muto was able to blend back into traffic without a problem and without creating problems for others. So he's okay without any damage. But a spin like that under the racing line means no caution flag for the most part. So those mistakes, you will be punished if you don't see a yellow flag fly your way. How about the battle for 14th going on? Jose Soria, who got his best finish of the season, a P3 at Laguna Seca several weeks ago. He was elated about that. And Cooper Webster, a driver we haven't seen in a couple weeks. He's missed 3 of the last 4. Was a championship prospect, Arjuna. Remember all those weeks back? He's not in the place right now, but he's that role model, right, for all of the other Red Line drivers to be well and to help their team whenever possible. And this battle has been doing well for itself, too, in 14th.
Super duper Cooper Webster, as some have dubbed him, David Haynes. Of course, missing many of those rounds to prepare and then compete as well in the FR World Cup at the Macau Grand Prix. Finished 5th as well. After all sorts of penalties, shenanigans and whatnot. So back home, hopefully spending some time with the family in Wallen, Victoria, just north of Melbourne if I'm correct. But been a very interesting year for him. Won a couple of races in the Porsche Esports Super Cup. Championship leader at one point, knocks the wall down coming out of turn number 4. Even the best struggle in dirty air, and Nashville, its concrete surface, is going to shred those Firestone tires up. At the front of the field, though, there's Phil Kraus, end of lap 30. Jason Brophy has started to close him down, albeit slightly, only because they're working their way past that first inkling of traffic.
And Gustavo Ariel was faithful to the inside for most of that run, even while Kraus was catching up. So it took a couple laps, and while Kraus shaved a couple tenths off of his best lap times over the last several trips around this Nashville Superspeedway, it wound him up a bit. He found the outside, and he played it patiently, which is what you have to do if you're Philip Kraus. You can't rush yourself into a poor situation. You know, back in Laguna Seca, that's where we saw a lot of desperation out of Kraus, where he made that dive bomb move in the final corner, and it didn't pan out for him. He lost 2 spots that he could have had to his benefit had he didn't make any contact with the driver on the outside. But tonight, we're seeing a lot more of a calmer approach to this race, which is what you have to employ, especially if you want to race for the title at the end of this one. And private label team hype seems like they're going blow for blow as they're getting by Ariel. Robert Malechka, the Indy winner, getting around Josh Chin for 3rd.
That's a bit of coordination. I think at this point in the run, clearly Malechka in a bit more control, tune with his car, and able to extract some pace through that traffic. Let's see if they're able to close. They're 2 seconds off of Jason Brophy in 2nd spot now. Not that close to Elliot Veyron, no, but probably a little bit closer than they'd like. Diogo Pinto, Michael Romanidis, they're wheel to wheel. You got the Greek driver looking up the inside. Championship leader, the Portuguese driver, runs the higher line, going to try and arc off the corner, but no, he's demoted himself down to 10th position. And that Kawanda car is looking good on the long run. Red Line, best of their drivers, currently sits in 10th position. That's where Diogo Pinto is. You've got 3 of those Kawanda cars right now in front. Kenneth, this is where if you're Pinto, you've got to remember, you've got Eduardo Lake, you've got Florian Lebigra, you've got Cooper Webster, all sitting between you and that crucial 16th spot. Remember, per our calculations, if Diogo Pinto finished 16th, no matter what Phil Kraus does, Pinto walks away champ.
Yeah, literally all that Pinto needs is a decent race, which has been easy to come by over the course of the season. I mean, when you look at his average finish on the ovals this season, which Redline, you know, they've touted earlier in the campaign how they've struggled on this type of racetrack. He only has an average finish of 8.5, which is not better than Kraus's average finish of 3, because Kraus has won 2 races already, and those were on the ovals. But Pinto has been solid. He's been so consistent, and that's what's allowed him to take the points lead late and have this advantage right now. So basically, all he needs is an uneventful race, and that means not fighting Michael Romanidis at this time. He doesn't need to fight all that hard for the spot, because you can easily wreck your race car if you make a mistake for the first part of it. But the second part of it, you don't need that position specifically. As long as Kraus is in the lead and you're 10th, you're not in 16th or worse, then it's okay, as Romanidis is starting to pounce on Dan Amor for P8.
Dan Amor struggling as well. You can just see how he's arcing the corner, and even then, car's just looking like it's going to just unwind at any point in time. Going to get stricken up for a second behind that traffic. Gustavo Ariel's going to be 3 wide as the spotter calls them. Michael Romanidis really charging now. Kawanda Esports, midway through this fuel run, have got a rocket under their hands. And Romanidis not quite getting the move done just yet, but out through turns 1 and 2, surely through the banking, all 9 degrees or so through the front stretch, 14 degrees through the banking. They're still wheel to wheel. Dan Amor's hanging tight. surely eventually he'll have to give this up.
Yeah, but he's going to fight for it with all that he's got, and that will allow Pinto to close in little by little. All those red line cars, Pinto, Leo, Labigra, and all the others that are behind them, they'll start to accordion together over this run. And that inside lane is proving to be pretty slick. You can't really make a move down there unless you lunge it into the corner. Shades of Milwaukee last week, Arjuna, where we saw the drivers start on the bottom, but over the course of the run, they started going up the banking on the outside, and making a pass on the bottom proved very difficult. It was that for Romanidis and more. Now the gap at least more than 3 car lengths. Amor holds on to the spot.
Does tend to be sometimes that wind that starts to impact how drivers are able to make those moves, and now Romanidis going to have to set this one up. Dan Amor is a full 2 and a bit seconds off of his teammate Luke McEwen. Plenty of time still left to go though before we get to the pit stops.
Yeah, we'll see what happens here over the course of this run. However, as of lap 42, I mean, the whole field has already thinned out clearly, and Pinto seems to be really happy where he's at. He doesn't seem to be putting all that pressure on to anyone, even if it was Romanidis that was right in front of him. And again, that's all that he needs. Very comfortable race. And still, there's a long way to go. There's still a bit of strategy left in this one if this continues to stay green. The green flag pit stops are dangerous. So I'd say what the biggest thing in mind is for Pinto is that pit stops will matter more than anything if it stays green, because one big hiccup on a stop could either get you a penalty or could get you in trouble on the racetrack. How many times have we seen drivers crash when they're getting on the entry of pit road, or if they miss the pit stall and they lose chunks of time? So Pinto not worried about position right now, probably thinking about what the strategy is going to go from here.
Earlier this season, we caught up with Ben Hendricks, the Senior Manager of Sponsorship, Sales, and Strategy at Penske Entertainment. Ben, with INDYCAR returning as a partner to iRacing, you know, we were able to renew one of the largest and most long-running sim racing events, the iRacing Indy 500. What does it mean to INDYCAR to have such a well-loved race as part of the virtual racing world?
Yeah, it's huge. People are rabid about the Indianapolis 500. There's no other way to say it. Whether you're a first-time fan or somebody who's been coming for 60, 70 plus years, it's great to have iRacing as a partner, to be able to experience that in tandem with what goes on in the track here during the month of May. I was talking to an individual in Gasoline Alley. He stopped me last year, and he just kept raving about iRacing and how he was headed home after Fast Friday to log laps to get ready for his virtual Indianapolis 500. So to be able to have a fan here at track, be here all day with their family, and then go home and experience it to compete with others from around the country and around the world is huge. And I think it just is a huge testament to the iRacing group and what you guys have put together to be able to bring everyone together for the month of May. Everybody grows up dreaming about winning the Indianapolis 500. Only 33 individuals get the opportunity to do it every single year, but to be able to do it at home and be able to drink the milk in some sense, whether it's in your kitchen or here in Victory Lane, it is super exciting. So you know, we look forward to building on that momentum this year. We want to make it even bigger and better, and give everybody the opportunity to experience the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, whether that's at home or in their living room or their bedroom or in their basement in the sim rig. So it's super exciting, and we look forward to keeping the positive momentum going.
And, you know, as part of the partnership, we've launched into a new year, a new series with the INDYCAR ButtKicker iRacing Pro Series. How has this series grown with INDYCAR? And, you know, what are some of the cool opportunities that came with this series being introduced for 2024?
Yeah, I think bringing on ButtKicker as a partner has been great. They've been awesome supporters of the series. And I think it's kind of a first step for us. You know, this is not something that INDYCAR has ever done. We've not had a professional series in any form on the esports category. It's always been something that we're interested in doing, but start to finish, it's a huge undertaking. So to be able to have iRacing kind of lead the charge and INDYCAR support, and then ButtKicker come on board and support as well, I think it's just the beginning for us. You know, there's tons of opportunities in the esports community from a professional series. You know, eventually for me long term would love to have one of these Pro Series winners racing at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway or any other NTT IndyCar Series track or Indy Next by Firestone. That's kind of the ultimate goal, right? To give these individuals, young and old, the opportunity to compete at an esports series level, and then be able to transition to them on the track at some point in their career. So, of course, that's kind of the long-term goal for everyone involved. But this is just kind of the first step, and we look forward to the continued momentum and building on this next year and years to come.
And well, you know, we're only 101 days away from kicking off the 2025 IndyCar Series at St. Petersburg. Where can fans get tickets, learn more about the upcoming NTT IndyCar Series season?
You know, really looking forward to getting back to Florida and kicking off the 2025 season. And I think one thing that we're all really excited about here at IndyCar is our new partnership with Fox. Being able to be on network television for all 17 races, plus the 2 days of the Indianapolis 500 qualifying, giving us 19 network windows and one home and a great partner at Fox. You'll know where to find us. We're not going anywhere all year. We're not on different platforms, so really looking forward to kicking that new relationship off with them and building on a positive 2024 season momentum. So yeah, March 2nd, right around the corner. Keep your eye on IndyCar socials. Tickets go on sale soon, and really looking forward to seeing everybody there.
Thanks for the time, and of course I mentioned we caught up with Ben a couple of weeks ago. It snowed in Indy today, so his backdrop looking a bit different. I bet he can't wait to get to the Sunshine State and kick off next year's NTT IndyCar Series campaign. Pit road looking busy, KB. Here comes Super Duper Webster.
Well, it is just a solo car down there. Webster said he was pitting in, but now we're getting more cars calling for pit road. The Frenchman, Florian Lebigra, has called for the pit lane. So has Tomasz Simon. Now, mind you, a lot of these guys are beneath the top 10, so they're near the back end of the field. This undercut strategy, though, they want to employ to get the fresh tires early and hopefully be able to beat these guys who will get the tires later on the racetrack. The biggest question is, with the gaps that we're seeing up front, who is electing to come in next? And if your private label team Hype, Arjuna, is it the case that you go down pit road all at the same time, or do you go in one by one depending on the scenario? And where does Pinto factor into the equation as the lone car sitting 10th with not that much traffic around him? So far, not that many drivers have called for pit road, at least in the top 10, so they're going to wait it out a little bit.
I think we're in a really pivotal phase of the race right now, because with all of these green flag pit stops underway, Jose Soria next into the pit road, all it takes is one of these drivers spinning on pit entry for a caution to come out, and you do go a lap down by pitting. Yes, you are faster with fresher tires, but there is that decision to be made, and Josh Chin has decided he's going to do something different. Is this private label team Hype starting one by one to bring their cars into pit lane 93, rolling into the box?
Well, it was interesting as well, Arjuna, because Josh Chin many weeks ago at Worldwide Technology Raceway had used the overcut strategy. He had stayed out so long to the point where he got the fresh tires in the end and got a good position out of it. We were talking about him and Phil Krause, and it looked like the battle for the net race lead was building up at the time, inside 10 laps to go. But now he's going to be the early caller here. And for private label team Hype, are they just going to go down one by one with Robert next, then Jason, then Phil? It just depends on what happens here. I think Chin is going to be the test car. There's Jordan Caruso, who had been a lap down prior to this stop here in 18th place. Fell a lap down to the race leader, Phil Krause, who was at least near that place to get lapped. He's all the way back there, and he just missed his pit stall, so we'll chop off a bit of time for him.
You can see Phil Krause, the race leader, does have some traffic working around him. That is, just remember though, those that have already come down pit lane. First it was Florian Lebigra, then it was Cooper Webster. Here comes Michele Costantini, a winner a week ago at the Milwaukee Mile, now down to pit lane as the first of the Coanda drivers from inside of the top 10. So one by one drivers are electing to blink, but it is clear that these drivers who are staying out longer are hoping to potentially get a caution that traps some of these drivers one lap down, but B, also save their tires to be a bit more aggressive to the end of the race. Because let's remember, Kenneth, let's say we get some late race safety cars, you're going to want some Firestone tires maybe to protect you, so you don't have to come down pit lane, although I'm going to suspect most are going to want to.
Well, the good news is you don't have tire set limits in this series, so if you elect to come down now and a caution comes out and then you have a chance to come in later on a late race strategy, you can do that. It's still a viable possibility, and Xavi Ros appears to have found trouble. I saw a couple laps ago during the talk with Ben Hendricks that he tapped the outside wall, but the Spaniard has found some trouble either out of turn 2 or out of turn 4. It appears it was entering the back straightaway, but Ros had just gotten out of shape, overcorrected the car, and he was into the wall. Here's Robert Malechka pitting from 3rd place, and there is Diogo Pinto right behind to follow.
And is this the final pit stop of a potential championship-worthy season from Pinto? He's made his way into pit lane with no speed issues. Now he's got to hit his marks, leave the pit lane, and rejoin the track. And then 49 or so laps left to go. Phil Kraus continues to run up front. His teammate Jason Brophy now directly behind him, though, in that number 88. Meanwhile, here comes Eduardo Leo, the final of the red line drivers, into pit lane, followed in by Jacob Oster. It leaves just Kraus, Brophy, and Crane out there and yet to box.
3 cars, and now here comes Kraus from the race lead. No mistakes here. That's the big problem about it. If you do speed a little bit, you can easily get that black flag, but Kraus does make pit road speed limit without a problem. Brophy will stay out the extra lap, and now we will watch the blend. At this point of the race, Kraus has already eclipsed the points needed for the most laps led in this race and for the standings, which is 2 points that'll go to his benefit, along with sitting on the pole, which adds the extra point. But we'll see where Pinto comes out in all of this. He's sitting 15th, and he's just exiting turn 2 right now. So Kraus could be in good shape as he's exiting his stall right beneath the iRacing official pace car. There he is in turn 1. We'll see the blend, but Kraus may have the advantage as Pinto is closing up.
Remember, it's going to also be a tire advantage for Phil Kraus, so he'll drop behind his teammate Josh Chin, blend just in front of, just behind of Rob Malechka, as Jason Brophy dives his way down to pit lane. Adam Crane, who did box under the safety car that we had on that very first lap of the race, he'll take over the race lead. Everyone else now technically 1 lap down from a Satellite Racing number 29. This is teammates though up front, let's not forget. PLTH will very quickly cycle the 99 back to the front of the field. What does this mean? If Adam Crane, let's just work through this scenario, Kenneth, and say he pits, he ends up behind Diogo Pinto. Diogo Pinto's in 11th, championship is still his. However, let's say Crane's able to work some magic, ends up in front. Pinto's in 12th, the margin back to 16th starting to get smaller.
It does, but like you said earlier in the race, he does have the safety net of his red line teammates in Eduardo Leo and Cooper Webster sitting 13th and 14th. So if there's anything that's going to happen, is that the red line teammates of Pinto are going to say, all right, well, you're in a more precarious position. Let's not put you in any more trouble. Let's try and help you out here. We'll hold up the traffic behind, or we'll do whatever we can to keep our position and keep you ahead of us. Work together here and find a solution. But you're right, any little position that's lost here for Pinto, I mean, it may not mean much overall in the point standings, but it does get him closer to being in that danger zone. There is Adam Crane finally electing to come down pit road. He's the last driver to stay out as long as everyone else did. That was about 67 laps that he put in on the racetrack in his stint. Lead in the hands of Josh Chin, and then Rob Malechka, Phil Kraus is his battle we're watching for 3rd. They're not that far behind Josh Chin, who will take the net race lead here off of turn 4. So it's a good spot for Kraus, but again, keeping an eye on what Pinto does here back in P12.
You can see those live points on the right-hand side. It has been a remarkable season, just 63 days as well from when we kicked things off at the Indianapolis road course to today, crowning our champion. And to learn more about what we've done in the last 10 weeks, and maybe glimpse at where you want to potentially be in 2025, head on to iRacing.com/INDYCAR-esports. Learn more about the series, the drivers, and everything that we've done. And don't forget, there's never been a better time to jump on to iRacing.com, where new memberships are 50% off. All subscriptions, renewals, whether it's for active or lapsed members, are 25% off as well. 1 or 2 year subscriptions have never been cheaper. So it's the best time of the year to jump into the world of iRacing. Again, those live points on the right don't reflect Phil Kraus being up front, where eventually he will cycle. Diogo Pinto has jumped to 11th, and what's important about that, Kenneth, he's got a teammate in front, he's got a teammate behind. He's got some protection heading into these final 40 laps.
He's got that sandwich to have him a bit of a safety net. But the thing is, I mean, Florian Levigra, I mean, he's going to help his teammate out, number one, but he's already losing a ton of time. It's a 9-lap difference to the favor of Pinto on the Firestone tires, so Pinto was going to get around Levigra anyway over the course of this run. The main target is Michael Romanidis for Pinto, if he can just slide back into the top 9 and have at least a better spot to add to that buffer in the series. And mentally, I mean, you're probably thinking to yourself, your Pinto, stay calm. Don't worry about what's happening behind you. Just focus on your car and making sure that you don't even wreck yourself. Make a mistake to take you out of a championship finish at the end of this race. And down to 38 laps to go. I mean, this is going to be the pivotal run that cycles us through. Whether it's Kraus that punches away for the race win, whether Pinto finds any trouble from here on out. Still cautions that could fly. Watch this, 3 wide, Adam Crane sending it down in turn 3. He picks up the 2 spots. That is a lap car, by the way. He pitted under green as the race leader. He's just now trying to get his lap back, but a wonderful move by Crane. Actually, that is for position. Crane up to P11.
I did wonder, right, where he was going to cycle, and ends up just behind. And this is where Eduardo Leo's got to play a little bit of defense for Pinto, because Adam Crane wants to be aggressive once again. Then it's going to be very, very interesting what Pinto elects to do. This is where championship mindset, Captain Consistent, is probably going to err on the side of caution and avoid putting himself in an uncomfortable situation. 36 laps to go, though, and Phil Kraus in a situation where realistically he cannot do much more, as Adam Crane is going to work to the high side this time on Eduardo Leo and be blocked off once again. If he holds on to what could be a 3rd win this season, I mean, KB, he's going to have to tell himself, right, he has done everything that he could. Yes, there have been some ups and downs. The first round, Indy Road Course, Laguna Seca, those stand out as maybe some of the notable hiccups along the way. But Kraus has been there and fought at the very top and has only just missed out against one of sim racing's best.
And at this point in the championship, when you're in the middle of this final race, you can't start thinking about the what ifs. What if I finished better at Laguna Seca? What if I didn't have a struggling start to the season at Indianapolis GP and Long Beach in the first 2 rounds? You have to think about what is and what's happening right now. And in the situation that was given to him, he was told, hey, you have a fighting chance at the championship. You can go after it in this final race. It is going to be a tough hurdle, though, to overcome. So Kraus is going to have to think to himself that regardless of the what ifs, what's happening right now is that he's still got a chance, but that the time is dwindling slowly but surely. And if he doesn't start to make moves, and if he doesn't have Pinto fall back beneath the top 16, he's given it all that he's got. And that's something that you can find pride in as a race car driver, that you've done everything you could in your power to put yourself in a good position. But when the gap is too much, the gap is too much. What we're looking at Adam Crane, who doesn't think the gap is too much to Eduardo Leo. Mind you, Crane is looking for his best finish of the season. He only has his best finish of 14th that came of the way at the... It was Mid-Ohio that he had that 14th place finish. So Crane looking for a solid end to the campaign tonight.
It's a couple of races here and there as well. Got married, was celebrating his honeymoon, and back with a bit of a vengeance, it would seem, towards the end of the season. Eduardo Leo, though, just rolling the high side, just continuing to frustrate, at least for the time being, as the satellite racing driver. Going to get now close to the back of Diogo Pinto. These drivers have lost a lot of time to Michael Romanidis as well, so 30 laps left to go. Adam Crane has a bit of a wry smile, I think, on his face. He's enjoying this fight as he looks down low once more on Leo.
You know, he's had a tough season. Not many times that Crane has been in a position where he can fight with some of the best, unfortunately, but the luck and the skill is starting to turn around right here in the strategy call. I mean, Crane, give him credit with that overcut decision to stay out and be like, why not? He's putting himself in a good spot for a top 15 position, and there's a look at Pinto. Not sure if he's got any nerves on him yet, but knowing that Crane is putting all this pressure on his teammate Leo, it's probably not a good sign, because it takes one mistake by a car in traffic to send Pinto around and could take him out of the race. So keeping a keen eye on what's going down in the rearview mirror, but I'd say that he likes his chances right now sitting in 10th, even if Romanidis is escaping up front.
I wonder here right now if Adam Crane is also working his tires a little bit too much. He did pit later. It's going to take a slide job. Can he hold on? Car washes up high. Eduardo Leo sits in the dirty air. Finally, though, the 29 rips 11th away from the young 17-year-old. And now we'll go to work on the back of the championship leader. How defensive is Pinto going to be? Could he use Adam Crane as a bit of a bridge here to try and close back up to Michael Romanidis? No fight put up whatsoever. Pinto, yes, down to 11th. But Adam Crane maybe now going to try and close up to the back of the number 53.
Telling Adam Crane here, go for it. Why not? Try to fight with Romanidis. It'll help me when I start catching up to you a little bit and I start to get it on. But for Pinto, yeah, again, he doesn't need to fight off Crane all that much. It doesn't really matter. As long as he stays where he's at, P11 is a decent spot to keep hold of the championship. And watching Private Label Team Hype, no real changes, Arjuna, between 1, 2, and 3. It's been Chin, Malechka, and Philip Krauts this whole time, but we may have a battle for the lead in turn 1. Malechka will power on the outside of the 14 degrees of banking. He's got the spot, and Robert Malechka to the point.
Now, PLTH, they have one thing, I think, on their mind, which is to try and secure a bit of a dominant run on these ovals. All but the last one at Milwaukee, of course, have gone their way so far. Rob Malechka's trying to ensure he gets as good a result in the championship top 10 as possible. Josh Chin's trying to lock himself into the top 12 as well. There you can see the two teammates, one racing from Michigan, the other racing from Florida. And then they've got their teammate Phil Kraus not far behind them as well. 24 laps to go. And if it stays green, which, knock on wood, we're hoping it does, KB, 9 minutes left in this season. And what a fun season it has been, right? Been great to work with you. We've had 33 fantastic drivers, 10 great tracks as well, some great audience as well. I've been, of course, reading the chat comments and seeing everything they've been talking about. I'm hoping we get to do this sooner rather than later.
I hope so too, Arjuna. It's been great to work with you over the course of this season, to hear you and your skill on the mic throughout the storylines and everything that we've seen in the campaign. And for everyone in the chat, I mean, they're just excited about IndyCar, watching this esports series for the first time. It's a historic first for the sport and iRacing in their partnership. And when we had the Indy 500 come back, I think everyone had it in mind at some point that we would want a championship like this to showcase the best drivers on the sim, whether it's on the ovals or the road and street courses, who can master the IR18 and become an iRacing IndyCar champion. And right now it's looking that Pinto will try and get that for his own with 21 laps to go. As Kraus took away second, he's getting around one of the Williams esports cars. That's a lap down. That's Jaden Munoz in turn 3, looking for the race lead. But the excitement all around this series has been outstanding. The outpour of support has been wonderful, and I can't wait to see how this championship ends.
Jacob Oster, Eduardo Leo, almost knocking wheels with one another down the back straightaway. Leo's going to wash up the track here. Gives Oster just a car's width room on the rise up towards the wall, and as they cross the line, 20 to go, you can just see how much more speed in the long run that Oster's got. Leo even down low, now struggling to make 1 and 2 as they wind their way back up through the corner. Let's see if Jacob Oster can close to Diogo Pinto and put him down to 12th position. Remember, that would still be good enough for a championship to go the way of the number 44, but it puts him increasingly close to that 16th position, which is where Pinto must ensure he drops no lower than. Leo's going to fight this one back, and that's a great opportunity around the outside. Caught Oster napping slightly. Team I5G driver can do nothing about it.
Eduardo Leo with a power move up high. What a wonderful shot there at Oster, who just caught a bit of that dirty air, had to whoa up there as he settles in 13th. But what you're watching there, specifically in the battles, is how they're slowing down the car in the corners. Obviously, at this point of the run, the tires have worn down considerably, so you can't really run full throttle or near full throttle throughout the track anymore. But what you can do now is lay off the throttle a bit and downshift into 4th gear. They're using the high rev range of 4th gear to use the throttle a little bit more at the center of the corner and get a bit more of that rotation with wearing down the right rear tire at the back end of the race car. So you're watching there how Leo had got right into 4th gear, used the engine braking to rotate the car, and powered out at the exit of the corner. It was a great move, and Leo pushes onwards for 12th. And here is a battle for 3rd. Jason Brophy going underneath Josh Chin.
Remember, Chin pitted very, very early in the race, the first of the PLTH drivers, and he's now paying the price slightly with Firestone tires. A little bit past their sell-by date, drops to 4th, still 3 odd seconds clear of Luke McEwen in the number 96 Apex Racing machine, who has had a solidly quiet day. Sneaked in front of both Elliot Veyron and Michele Costantini. The Apex Racing team clearly, even with no Peter Berryman and no Brandon Traino as well, showing up with some decent speed. Jason Brophy, by the way, final race of the season. Final opportunity for him to score some good points on the ovals where he knew his chance would be. He's made his bed for us, KB.
And this will be his best finish if it tracks down as is with 14 laps to go. I mean, his best finish of the season. Prior to this, I mean, it was 17th place at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which we touted was probably one of his best opportunities to get a win this year. It hasn't been that way, but you got to give credit for Brophy, not only behind the scenes helping with private label team hype, get them in a championship position with Phil Krause, but now tonight with the strategy and the speed he's employed over practice queue and the race trim, he'll get a podium, hopefully, if he can hang on for the rest of it. But as we're watching this race crank down, Arjuna, we're also looking at guys that are in position for cash prizes at the end. It's not only the championship that we're watching, as Romanidis makes this pass on Dan Amor for 9th place on the track. Romanidis enters this race 11th in the point standings, which would give him $500, and he is only about a couple of points shy of David Top. 5 points going into this race, so he can easily increase his cash total output to 1,000 at the end of this race.
You can see the live points as it sits right now inside of the front 9. Scroll down to the top 12, and there you can see how the $50,000 broken up across of this 2024 INDYCAR ButtKicker iRacing Pro Series. Did think it was interesting. One thing that Ben Hendricks did say was that, you know, it'd be very cool to see some of these drivers from the INDYCAR esports world potentially head out there into the real world as well, right? So, you know, think about this. They are fighting for $500, but maybe in the future they're fighting for an opportunity to jump behind the wheel of either Dallara IR18 or maybe even an Indy NXT machine or something. So would be something cool to potentially see in the future. One idea that we heard thrown out there by Ben Hendricks. Just 1 point in the battle right now for 15th and 16th position. Under 10 laps to go though, and some of the drivers that pitted early starting to fall off. We're down to 17 drivers left on the lead lap, and the battle for the race lead going to close to under 0.4 of a second. Here comes Phil Krause on his teammate Rob Malechka.
And these are between the 2 drivers that have already won a race or so in this season. Krause has picked up 2, both of them on the ovals. And then at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Rob Malechka was able to settle himself as the king of the Brickyard after winning the Indianapolis 500 Open and fixed setup races earlier in the year. So these are 2 drivers that have obviously raced a ton with each other. And I think if Krause is thinking right now that he's not in the chance for the championship and that it's almost done and he's just going to finish second and have a good cash prize to go with it, why not try and battle for the race win? Go out on top of the running order. And as it goes down, I mean, Krause is a hair slower than Malechka, but lap traffic will play a factor. So this is going to get spicy inside 6 laps to go.
And with just 2 laps difference between their tires, expecting that, probably seen both of them push relatively hard. Jason Brophy's in contention as well. 6 laps left to go. I think Phil Krause, unfortunately, has just run out of time. If he had another 5 laps, 10 laps or so, he'd be able to chip away and maybe work his way through traffic, but he's going to run out of time unless Malechka's going to find himself stuck. Gustavo Ariel's going to go down yet another lap. But with 5 laps to go, PLTH still 1 through 4, but Diogo Pinto in 11th is doing exactly what he needs. Remember, if you're just joining us in these closing stages, KB, all he's got to do is finish 16th or higher, and he's our champion.
We've just said it for hours and hours and even minutes before we went live tonight that Diogo Pinto just needs a decent race. He doesn't need a flashy race. He doesn't need a race win. He doesn't need anything wild. All he needs to do is just run. Start the race, finish nicely, be consistent like he's been all season, and that is the reward he's going to get. The $20,000 and this iRacing INDYCAR ButtKicker Pro Series Championship. And while Krause is going to heave for the fences to try and catch up to his teammate and get this win, at this point of the race, caution or not, it will be Diogo Pinto settling as the title driver this season, as Kraus is going to try again to get by the red line lap car, Gustavo Ariel, in the waning laps.
It was really interesting to have the NTT INDYCAR Series wrap its season up in 2024 here at the Nashville Superspeedway. When Alex Palou won his championship, a lot of people watched to the end of the year and wondered what would fill the gap. We've had this INDYCAR ButtKicker iRacing Pro Series and a really intriguing storyline. Could Redline hold off this challenge from private label Team Hype? They've thrown everything they could in this final race. 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the vast majority of the 114 laps. Rob Malechka, Jason Brophy, Phil Kraus, and Josh Chin have dominated here at Nashville. It will be Malechka for the second time this season that enters victory lane on an oval. But at the end of the day, it's not about winning the battle, it's about winning the war. Captain Consistent has only entered victory lane one time this season, but Diogo Pinto has stayed true to form. Up front when it counts and when it matters. The Portuguese driver is going to cross the line and become the very first INDYCAR ButtKicker iRacing Pro Series champion. Team Redline have done it. They've done exactly what they knew what they would do. Show the world they're the best here at Nashville.
And it's a sigh of relief, a sigh of joy for Diogo Pinto, who gets the championship. And he had a calm and consistent race, all that you could ask for out of the Portuguese driver. And as private label Team Hype celebrates the win and gives credit to Kraus, I mean, Pinto didn't need any heroics over the season. All he needed was a consistent year, and that's exactly what he puts down. And Pinto can celebrate as the INDYCAR ButtKicker iRacing Pro Series champion.
And he's done something that no one to date will and maybe ever be able to claim based on the form book. Until today, no driver had won a world championship in both Formula and sports cars by themselves. Yes, we've seen the likes of Martin Kronka do it with the help of their Coanda Esports teammates in sports cars, but the 2022 Porsche Esports Super Cup champion, now the 2024 INDYCAR ButtKicker iRacing Pro Series king, and he'll burn it down with his Team Redline teammates celebrating along with him. This is the championship moment brought to you by ButtKicker after what has been a quite remarkable 63 days, KB.
It's been a great championship, and as everyone burns it down, all celebrating Pinto's championship, Robert Malechka celebrating what is his second win of the 2024 season. We've seen it all, and it's a bit ironic that the championship claimed by Pinto is on the type of track that Redline over the course of the season has been trying to get better at. It took so many attempts to dial in the setups, get these consistent finishes. Pinto showed that the adaptability worked. They kept their head in the game, and now Redline and Pinto are the champions this year.
Statement made from PLTH, private label Team Hype 1 through 4. Rob Malechka, Phil Kraus, Jason Brophy, and Josh Chin as we finish our second oval race of the season under green flag conditions. They'll celebrate the win, but not the championship. Luke McEwen, an outstanding day for him and that Apex Racing team machine to sneak past Elliot Veyron and Michele Costantini, the best of the Coanda Esports drivers, 6th and 7th. Adam Crane, believe this, 18 positions gained over the course of the day. One of the best drives of the season, quietly and calmly picking his way through one by one to that finish. Michael Romanidis, 9th for him in front of Jacob Oster to round out the top 10 for the final time this season, with Diogo Pinto, our champion, only needing 11th to burn it down in the championship circle. Eduardo Leo, Florian Labigra, 12th and 13th, protecting their teammate all the way to the very end. Dan Amor sliding back to 14th in the closing stages, but in front of Jose Soria, Jeff Drake, and Cooper Webster. One lap down for Sota Muto and Jaden Munoz, the pair of Williams Esports drivers. Jordan Caruso's 20th, and not sure if he's done enough to hold on to his spot in the series for 2025. 21st went the way of David Toth in the Drago racing car. With 3 laps down, Gustavo Ariel struggling early with missing part of the front wing, and then those that didn't make it to the end. Javi Rose, Tamas Shimon, Brendan Lichtenberg, Sam Koiter, and then Ricardo Rico. My, oh my, it's been a remarkable season to say the very least. And well, Diogo Pinto came into the night calm, cool, collected. It's only the second time this season he's finished outside of the top and he sits in front of us as our very first INDYCAR ButtKicker iRacing Pro Series champion. Diogo, drink that in. How does it feel to be our very first king?
Yeah, it's awesome. All season, even since the Pro Qualifiers, we as a team worked very hard to get to this level. Because at the start we were not very competitive, and we're definitely very strong now. So it feels good for myself and for my teammates who helped me get here.
You had your teammates supporting you all the way to the very end in terms of battles all the way around. What was the mindset coming into the night, knowing that Phil Kraus was going to show up with a strong race car, but if he won, got all the bonus points, 16th was good enough for you? Was it a mindset of offense or defense?
Well, I just wanted to do my own race because I knew if in normal conditions I would be fast enough to finish, like you said, 16th or higher. So it's just executing the race well with a good strategy, and that's what he did. I mean, the pace was not amazing, but it was enough. And yeah, that's what I needed today. Some of my teammates had a decent race as well. It's a shame we didn't get the 1-2, but yeah, the mindset was just to take it race by race on the last couple of rounds, because that's, I think it was Gateway. I was thinking a lot about the championship, and I was too conservative, and it didn't go well that race. So I just went back to a little bit more aggressive mindset, and yeah, it worked out nicely.
Love hearing about the mental side. One more question. Of course, you know, Team Redline, you know, many have said and many will continue to say one of the best teams in all of sim racing, and you as one of their drivers can claim to be one of the very best. But now, as one of the only drivers to achieve this level of success in a sports car and a Formula, an open wheel machine, how do you feel showing the world your capability in every car, every track, every discipline of racing, that you are one of the best in the sim racing world?
It's just not about myself, because my teammates did a lot of hard work. Well, myself as well, but without them, I wouldn't have won this series. So just I think I was just the right place at the right time, in the best team, and executing the race as well. So it feels awesome. We still have other series to compete in next year, so I'm going to focus on that. But yeah, it feels awesome to win in PESC and now in the INDYCAR as well, to the two World Championships.
A driver that really appreciates the team around him. Diogo Pinto, our very first INDYCAR ButtKicker iRacing Pro Series champion. I'll throw it over to KB, who's standing by in victory lane today with Rob Malechka at the Nashville Superspeedway.
Well, you know, tonight was the storyline of the championship, but there was a story to behold for you, Robert, taking your second career INDYCAR iRacing win in this series after taking Indianapolis earlier on in the campaign. How would you describe how the night went and the emotion after the W?
Yeah, we just kind of stuck to our plan. We knew going after practice that we had a decent cushion on the field, and yeah, all four of us worked really well there together on that initial start, got us 1 through 4. After I kind of bottled qualifying there. And after that, yeah, we're just kind of riding around. You know, it's very hard to pass this track, but tires actually do matter quite a bit. So it's a bit difficult to manage your pace sometimes. But yeah, I got the undercut on Phil and Jason there. And I think Chin just had older tires where he was starting to dag a bit too hard there. So got around him and then just kind of controlled at the end, and happy to get to win. And congrats to Diogo on the championship.
It's a private label team hype 1, 2, 3, 4. You guys showed pace from the start of practice to the qualifying session and ultimately into the race pace tonight. When you guys went 4 wide out of turn 4 to celebrate the moment, what did that mean to you in the effort that this team has put together for this series and the successes that you guys have been able to find over the way?
Yeah, I think it means a lot to all of us, right? I mean, we're all kind of mainly oval guys, mainly guys that have been in the INDYCAR iRacing community for a while. And, to get some good results for all of us over the course of 10 rounds was a big accomplishment for all of us. But, you know, also have to credit, you know, a lot of the other teams that don't run ovals, right? And they made some insane gains. They kind of pushed us to get better, and it made it for a really fun season.
Well, it was fun watching you and the rest of the team out on track. And on behalf of all of us, congratulations on this W in the finale from Nashville Superspeedway. Hopefully, we'll see you soon in another INDYCAR capacity because you showed us a lot. Congratulations on the win tonight.
Yep, thanks, guys. Take care.
That is Robert Malechka for Private Label Team Hype that gets the W. Finishing behind is Philip Kraus, who's second in the running order, second place in the championship. Philip, you gave it all that you had. It was a valiant effort from winning the pole tonight, then leading the most laps and putting yourself in a position to win. What was the mindset like going into this race and trying to steal the title away?
Yeah, there was only really one approach to this race. We knew coming in after Milwaukee, I want to say 41 points back, something like that. But we knew I had to maximize my points, probably get pole, which I did, and then probably I had to win and lead most laps. Just maximize my points, maximize my opportunity. It's doing what I could. But Diogo and the Red Line guys, they had just enough of a car to manage to hold it off. He was running about 10th, 12th the whole race, and I knew about probably 30, 40 to go. There wasn't really a realistic chance, just seeing where 17th was on track, that I was going to be able to beat him. But I got to say, just a shout out to everyone on Private Label Team Hype, Powerslide Motorsports. This is so much more than I expected going into this season, honestly. Like, I was happy with just qualifying for this series, but second place at the end of 10 races, absolutely ecstatic, and can't thank the guys over at Powerslide enough. Jason Brophy, especially, Adam Blocker. They put in most of our setup work, and wouldn't be here without them.
Just storybook in the way that this series demonstrated the strength from those who are good on the road courses and drivers like you who are good on the ovals and able to show out the skill on both different types of disciplines. What is the biggest takeaway you have for making this series, winning a couple races, and putting yourself in a championship spot at the end?
Definitely wouldn't mind a 6-4 oval to road split next season. I think that would help us a lot. But yeah, no, we know we have to improve on for the next season of this for sure. We definitely were lacking on the roads, especially in qualifying. I feel like our race pace was okay on roads, but everyone was so close in the race. It was just so hard to make up track position in those races. And then obviously I had my incident in Indy GP to start the season. Didn't even get to start the race there really. And Laguna Seca was a bit of a clown. But yeah. Well, definitely looking forward to next season, and maybe we can do one better then, maybe we can't, but either way, it's just an honor to be a part of the series and race with drivers of this caliber.
Well, it was a strong effort for you and the rest of the Private Label Team Hype. Second in the championship. I know it's not the title itself, but a strong season overall. Congratulations on the campaign, Philip. Hopefully we get to talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
That's Philip Kraus. Second in the championship, Arjuna, you got to give him credit. He gave it all that he could muster here at Nashville Superspeedway. Short of the title, but a strong season by him nonetheless.
I'm glad when drivers call themselves clowns, so that I feel less bad when I do it as well. But 16 points behind. Not sure that Phil can really be too disappointed at the end of the day. Diogo Pinto drove a consistent season, only 2 results outside of the top 10. There are a couple of things very, very intriguing about this points picture, though, because we've got a tie for 5th, Luke McEwen and Florian Lebiga. A count back will probably see, I think, McEwen grab the prize money advantage there. But 1 point, KB, 1 point splits Elliot Veyron from Cooper Webster. And if Cooper hadn't missed a couple of races preparing for Macau, he would be locked in for 2025. Instead, 13th on back, looking at the qualifying series and the grind to get back here for 2025.
They'll try to get back into it, but we know with what a lot of these guys displayed over the course of the season, they have the skill, they have the strength to be able to qualify into the series next year. I mean, at one point, just shows you how competitive it was. Even if the championship has a Diogo running away from it like Bruno Mars, I mean, it is for the rest of it. So competitive, so tight over the field. And I think that's a demonstration to what this series brought us, the high level of competition between those that fight in different disciplines on iRacing and try to be better in every sense of the word. It was a great championship, and I'm so blessed to be able to be a part of this series.
I've commentated on virtual IndyCars at least once a week now for at least 4 years. Schedule for the rest of the year is looking a bit empty. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself, but I will think back to what a remarkable season it has been. KB, I think at the end of the day, one thing Phil said was rather interesting, right? 6 ovals, 4 road courses. It would benefit him, but what would have happened if the fan vote had gone to the Red Bull Ring, right? What if it had been 6 road courses and 4 ovals? Could we have had something slightly different to close out this season?
We could have. It would have been either a standout performance by Pinto or maybe another red line driver could have put themselves in that conversation. We may have had maybe a 3-way fight for the championship that was mathematically closer going into this last race. I think the fans may have to vote on more than one race to give the 6-4 split for the ovals for Philip Kraus there. But, I mean, really, in this series, we had the healthy balance. The 5 road course races to show us the greats of Team Redline and the other guys who performed in that sense. And then all the ovals to give the Americans and those who are specialized on that type of track to display what they can do. And that's the proper story of this championship. A driver who had to adapt to the oval side of things, and a driver in second in the standings who had to adapt to the road courses, and both of them did wonderfully to put themselves in the championship spot, and it was great to see the finale come down the way it did.
And the margin between them at the end of the day, less than a first and a fifth difference in one single race. That's how close it was. 10 rounds, 63 days. All good things come to an end, though. It's time to close this chapter on the 2024 INDYCAR ButtKicker iRacing Pro Series. So many people have made this possible, and of course first we had to get the iRacing license back with INDYCAR, and what a year it's been, starting with the 500 and now these last 10 weeks. So many people behind the scenes have made these broadcasts possible, but for Gary, Keenan, Reese, Taylor, Joey, Joe, Sean, Cisco, Kenneth Bueno, and myself, Arjuna Kankipati, thanks for joining us this season. It's been a blast. Congratulations to Diogo Pinto, the very first INDYCAR ButtKicker iRacing Pro Series king, and I can't wait to see him defend his throne in 2025. See you then.